inside, our hearts open wide, and we'll never tire. We do not comply. We do not comply.
All right, so we're here with Jack Klikus.
Hello, how's it going?
Did I say that right?
Yes.
All right, so we have a mutual friend who kind of turned me on to you. I remember seeing your ad during the last campaign.
Yeah.
And obviously we're having technical difficulties right now, so we can't play the ad. But can you tell us? I want to talk about the ad, and then I want to go back in time to say, why did you do that ad?
Yeah.
So what was the ad? What was the ad about, and who was it for?
So basically, this man named Joe Araggio, he works for Americans for Prosperity, AFP. I met him at some dinner party for like a state rep candidate, and he was like, he heard my story from Dan Naylor, who is like the head of the Republican Party in Lackawanna.
Yeah, he's the chairman of Lackawanna County
Yes.
GOP. Yeah.
And he went over to me and he's like, Jack, I heard your story a little bit. It's very interesting. I really think too, it could, help a lot of people and change a lot of hearts and, just, be pretty much a voice for what's going on in this country when it comes to the fentanyl crisis and the drug crisis. So he said, would you like to, do the commercial? And I said, yeah. So I go out to Pittsburgh and I go in the studio and I just talk pretty much about, my parents a little bit and about how the drug crisis in this country is, it's getting out of control. And, people like, former Senator Bob Casey's not doing his job, and thank God Dave McCormick got in, you know what I mean?
Before we continue, obviously you're a Republican.
Yes, I'm a big Republican.
Okay.
I have been since 2022. That was my first time I ever voted. And that was the first time I voted Republican. And after that, I said to myself, yeah, I'm a Republican. So.
All right. Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Casey.
Yeah. So I thought that, he was a failed politician. And so like, that's why too, like I kind of like slammed him in that commercial. But overall, it was also just to talk about the drug crisis that we have in our country. And yeah, I was happy to be part of it.
So how was that? Like, so for like normal, average, everyday citizens,
yeah,
they really don't like to put themselves out there.
Right.
Like a political candidate would.
Right.
Unless there's something really strongly felt for
Yeah.
them to do that. What was the reaction to that ad personally? Was there any criticisms, or was it pretty much supportive?
No, honestly, I got so much support after that commercial, including from some family members that, don't always agree with me. They were very happy that I'm out there and actually advocating for this. You know what I mean? They said they were very happy that I have a voice for this, because I feel like you can't be afraid to go out there and tell people how you feel about something, especially something that affected you in life. Like for me, like losing both my parents, it was a struggle. It was very hard. And I just wanted to go out there and I wanted to, say their name, say their story, and get something going where we can fix this crisis that even they suffered with.
So how did that come about? Like what a lot of people, I think a lot of people have many misconceptions about addiction, drugs, family, trauma. Would you mind talking about like what happened?
Yeah. So
just pull that mic up just a little bit closer.
Yeah,
to you.
of course.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, there you go. You hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
wow, that's
now you feel
that's clear.
now you're an alpha.
Yeah.
Look at me producing early in the show.
Thank you. But anyway, I would have to say
You don't have to hold it. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But I would have to say
this is Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. There's no mistakes.
No, I
you can't
get
make
you.
mistakes. Yeah.
But I would have to say it all started pretty much after my dad got electrocuted back in 2010, 11, I believe.
Electrocuted.
Yeah, 480 volts electricity.
Was he a lineman?
He was a union lineman electrician.
Jesus.
I think he was working on a stadium light. That's the story that I heard. And he got electrocuted and he was in the hospital for a while. And then he got out and he was put on painkillers pretty much,
Yeah.
And eventually the painkillers, the doctor was like, we got to start, lowering the doses, whatever. So eventually right around probably like 2015, 2016, I started seeing him and my mom start doing, drugs, like on the street drugs.
So your dad was a union lineman.
Yeah.
And what did your mom do?
My mom was an accountant for a construction company. I believe it was TSA or something like that, or TSE. But she also lost her job because she was laid off. There was a lot of layoffs, things like that. And
Right.
so we actually lost our house because of it too. and we moved around a lot. So we kind of moved up more towards Waymart in that area because that's where my dad's family was, and they were kind of like a support for us financially until my dad can get back on his feet and work. My dad did work while he was suffering with the pain, but again, he needed those drugs in order to, function. And
So you were what, 10 when this happened?
when they died.
No. When your dad first got injured.
Oh, yes. I was around that age, 10. Yeah. And my sister, I think she was like 3 or something like that. She was very, very young. But again, he was alive and he was, there through our lives. But again, he just changed as a person, and my mom changed eventually as a person once they started getting on these drugs.
So it started off with doctors.
Yes.
So somebody gave him a prescription.
Yes. And eventually led to on-street drugs.
Because so what I've saw is that what usually happens is like they overprescribe these medicines.
Right.
And then people have there's no other term but like an addiction to them.
Right.
And then when they start pulling them away, the desperation begins to then go to street drugs.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Yes, basically. I did see they were taking a lot of it throughout the years, like their prescriptions, and especially like my dad. My mom more just had like anxiety and depression. That's why she took prescription. But my dad more so was taking all these prescriptions because of the pain. And I think eventually, he got so addicted that then he turned to other drugs, especially on the street. So yeah.
So I hate that we even have to talk about like this issue.
No, it's fine.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I hate that it's a problem.
Right.
And I hate that like there's a lot of people that recognized this coming.
Yeah.
And nobody did anything about it.
Right. No, exactly. There was a lot of people within my family that like saw this happening and they didn't say anything. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's not a good thing. If you see something, say something. But for me, I was just too young that for me, it was hard to pretty much say
10.
anything. Yeah, 10, And then throughout the years, just seeing them act like this, I kind of knew what was going on, but I didn't exactly know,
So did it start with Oxy?
Yes, pretty much like Oxycontin.
The drug that Purdue Pharma said is non-habit forming?
Yeah, pretty much. Because they like to lie a lot, Big Pharma, it seems like, especially with Oxys.
No, why would they do that?
I know.
Why would they lie about something that they could benefit off of human suffering for?
No, exactly. I was put on oxys for a while because I had a back surgery done back in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I had scoliosis. My dad had hyperscoliosis. I just had like the regular scoliosis with an S curve, and they gave me oxys. But I said to the doctor, and I said to myself, I only want this for a week, and then I'm done. Give me ibuprofen, and that's it. And
could you tell, like when you took one, you're like, oh,
yeah, I can tell the difference. And yeah, I'm gonna be honest, it does feel good. And it is something that you want to stay on, but you have to get off of it. Like me, I got off of it after that first week and I went right on the ibuprofen. I don't even crave it. I don't crave it.
So what, like as a young man, what was, because what I think is that I think this problem permeates through every socioeconomic background. It doesn't care.
Right.
It doesn't care if you're black, you're white, you're Asian, you're old, you're young, you're male, you're female.
Right.
Which is apparently, we're back to that now, Dan. Did you know? We're back to male and female.
Oh, are we?
Thank you.
Yeah, that went away. So I think I'm a big fan of like telling the truth.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, and I've always been that way. At least I thought I was, even when I was like a hardcore liberal. I never understood why, like there's at the time when I was thinking about this, there was 50,000 people dying in the United States from opioids, and everyone was,
crazy.
and the news would be like, well, people are dying from opioids, and never once was there like any call to arms,
right,
to be like, who's pushing this and where is it coming from?
Yeah.
I know it's for profit. I know it's for, they look at their bottom line. Did you ever see Fight Club?
I think I saw it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, when you get to be an adult, you can see Fight Club. And Edward Norton's character in that movie works for an insurance company, and he has this line where he goes, he goes around to, he does insurance claims.
Right.
And he goes around to all these accidents, and what what the insurance company says is if it's cheaper to pay out the lawsuits, they don't do a recall. So that always stuck with me since like 1999, 2000 when that movie came out, where it's like, okay, so they're choosing not to do the right thing
by getting rid of that drug
for financial reasons. So what was it like for you growing up in that atmosphere? Like, were you aware, or were you kind of like insulated from it?
I would have to say I was kind of aware of what the medicine was doing to my parents when I like saw them. Like sometimes they were hunched over, like a little high, you know what I mean? Or like there'll be times too where like I had like a band concert and we were running late because both my parents were kind of, you know, high that night, whatever. But again, I kind of also isolated myself in a sense from that. I kind of just accepted it, you know what I mean? But growing up more and more, especially like, you know, after my parents dying when I was 15, I kind of like knew then and there, like, yeah, drugs are an issue, and especially the ones they were taking, and it needs to stop.
Were they doing like what they say in like Kensington, Philadelphia? What do they call that? The Kensington. Do you know what I'm talking about?
When they're all on the side of the street, just kind of hunched over, slouching and everything.
Yeah, but like they're hunched over, standing up, and
that was like that in my house, like a lot, every single day almost. You know what I mean? I mean, it only lasts maybe like for a few minutes, things like that. They would try to sober up so that way they can, you know, make us dinner, things like that. They weren't bad people, but again, these drugs are what made them hunched over like that, made them high like that, and just took away their real selves, you know? And on top of it too, like what they died from was heroin-laced fentanyl. And it seems like fentanyl is being laced in everything now these days.
So, I don't even know where to go. Like, I don't even know. I don't even know how to like tell this story because it's so, there's so many facets to like, there's people, there's companies that are profiting off of this and the human tragedy that falls upon it. They don't want to talk about.
No, they
like,
don't.
I remember it was like it was early 2000s when they were talking about OxyContins and stuff like that, and nobody did anything.
Right.
And they just kept prescribing it, and they were incentivized to prescribe it.
Oh yeah. And not only that though, how come too, like the COVID shot was made this quick, but we don't have a cure
this ain't going on YouTube.
Yeah, and we're done. What do we
You can say what you want to say.
You're good. You're good. That was funny. But no, I have to say, like, we made this COVID shot super quick, and we have the technology to do it. Why don't we find cures for cancer instead of always jamming chemo in everybody?
Well, there's this. So like we've done some work on the homeless crisis in the area.
Yeah.
And I started really looking into like how do other cities handle it? Are they successful? What do they do? And what I've realized is that there's an entire industry surrounding that problem. And if you solve that problem, that industry goes away. So like homelessness, and specifically California, I'll use as a frame of reference.
Yeah.
Last year they spent $25 billion on the homeless crisis, and no one knows what they spent it on.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's still homelessness there.
It's getting worse.
Yeah.
So the question always ends up being, it's like, okay, so like we've done this, what we think is a course correction and the right thing to do, and it's not having any success. Right. So like, I don't know why there's not milestones, because they don't want it to. See, like I look at all these things as like they're willfully being done because people will lose their jobs if you correct it. So that brings us to cancer, pain, homeless, like all those things, because there's an entire industry. Like if they cure cancer, what happens to every oncologist in the United States?
Oh, exactly. They're going to be out of a job, and money's going to be lost. And it's sad because why don't we do the right thing? But they don't want to do the right thing because there's always money involved. Especially too, look at the wildfires in California. It took them pretty much forever to, solve. And I mean, once Trump gets in, he sent the National Guard up there and he said, "Hey, let's let all this
turn the water
out of
on
the well." Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And listen, now it's done. Now it's over with. Now the fires are gone, and now they're rebuilding. But why did it have to take so long for that to occur? And that's because of the fact that it seems like these people want to watch the world burn, pretty much.
I mean, is that what you're coming to the consensus of? Is that what you're?
I mean, that's what I see it as. I mean, why would the governor wait that long, for, water just to get poured on these wildfires that we're spreading like crazy? And the amount of homelessness now it's going to cause for some people, because they lost their homes. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not the governor's fault. It was the mayor's fault, as we all know.
Oh yeah, the mayor too.
She is not a smart person.
No.
I used to live in LA,
Yeah.
right? So, and as I said, I was a former liberal, right? Now I'm like politically, there's a lot of problems I see on the right, and not like for the reasons that most people think. I think a lot of them are beholden to like special interests and lobbyists. And, what I've realized was, since I had my like switch, is that everyone they told me not to listen to is the people I should be listening to. The ones who are like, they're the devil. And I'm like, well, what'd the devil have to say?
Yeah.
And then I listen and I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Like clean the brush so that the fires don't permeate through the Pacific Palisades.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing with them. It's just like, I feel like they want to direct their course away from outsider point of views or ideas. You know what I mean? And that's not right, because I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, outsiders are the ones that make real change in life. You know what I mean? These people that have been in office for 50, 60 some years, what are they there for? Just for money, basically. You know what I mean? They have insider trade. They have all this corruption chains all around. And they don't care about the everyday working people or just the everyday American. They just care about themselves and their jobs. And that's pretty much it. And it's sad. It really is. And I don't know why it has to be this way, especially in this country, but it's just the way it is. And the political establishment, I have to say, has gotten very, very corrupt throughout the years. And I'm glad to see, though, that we have people down in office that is fighting against that. But I feel like we can never totally get rid of the establishment, which is sad. But
I think it's a constant fight.
It is.
I think there's this constant like push and pull. And then, so they look at it as, did you ever hear something called the horseshoe theory?
I never heard of it. No.
Okay. So the horseshoe theory is like socialist, fascist, it all ends up in the same place, which is authoritarian.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't dislike Democrats. Like I as a former one, I always believed in, be nice to people.
Right.
Try to help them out whenever you can. And create more than you destroy. And it just seems like the push-pull somehow got pulled too far. And which explains like the last, 12 years has just been like this total slide down the hill into actual insanity.
I know, like my grandfather, the Democrat Party that he used to be beholden of, it was common sense back in the day. I mean, my grandfather, who passed away also from drugs, sadly.
You got to be kidding me, Jack.
Yeah. Actually, in my house, too. I found him, too. I found him and I found my parents. But
the same day?
No. That happened back in 2010, actually. Actually, when my dad got electrocuted around
So wait,
that
your
time.
dad got... Okay. I'm not laughing at this.
No,
it's just like for you to be sitting
crazy
here and not be like a mental case is so like outside the norm of what you'd expect people to behaving like. So props and you know what, man, that's a really good constitution that you have.
Well, I have to say, like in life, like there's gonna be hard times that are gonna get to you, you know what I mean? And you're gonna have to, fight relentlessly. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
But you're gonna have to fight relentlessly, you know what I mean? I always said to myself that there's gonna be struggles in life. This life's gonna knock you down, but you gotta get up and you gotta fight. You know what I mean? I think this whole situation, even though I didn't want it to happen, it made me into a stronger person today. And I have to say, it gave me more discipline and it gave me a purpose in life. You know what I mean? Even though it's a tragedy, even though every single day I wish it didn't happen, it's given me a purpose. But
are you an only child?
No.
I have.
I'll let him answer that, Dan.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
No, I have a sister. Her name's Ariel, and she's doing great. You know what I mean? I also have a half brother named Kyle. You know what I mean? He's an accountant, and I just have to say, like, I'm very blessed to have two siblings that are always there for me. In a sense, especially to like my sister, I'm so glad to have her because me and her, we were through it together. In a sense, we were in foster home after foster home together.
Is that what happened after?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, it was within the family, but again, like the family got so pressured that it was kind of like we were here first, and then we were here, and then we were here. Now she's in like her final place. She loves it. It's different people though. It's not family, but they are great people and they love her very much and they take care of her. And I see her almost every weekend. I always keep in contact with her. I actually call her during the week, and she calls me sometimes during the week, but more so I'm calling her. But she's doing great.
So your dad gets. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place.
Oh no, you're fine. Me too.
I didn't know where to. Okay, so you're Is this your paternal or your maternal grandfather that passed away in 2010?
My maternal, yeah.
So your mom's dad.
Yes.
So you come home to him.
So actually, it was a birthday party that me and my brother had combined together because his is August and mine is September. But the party was in August because we sometimes had combined parties that way we can save some money.
Yeah.
It was the next day after that party that I was going to go in there to get my, early birthday presents. You know what I mean? And I saw him, and my grandfather, he had throw up all over his face and he wasn't moving. You know what I mean? He was white as a ghost. And then I went into the living room and my mom was like, sleeping on the couch. I woke her up. I said, Mom, like Pop-Pop's not moving. He has like throw up all over his face. She goes in there and, we called the ambulance. And I remember vividly that my dad told me, my half brother and sister to go outside in the playhouse because we had a big yard with a playhouse, and we went in there, and that was pretty much the first time I ever saw my brother cry. He's not really a crier, but like I was just, a little kid. I was just kind of like confused on what was going on, especially my sister. She was super young. She didn't even know what was going on. But then we found out that he passed away. The EMT said he was deceased and took him out of the house.
And what drugs was that?
That was, it was, I believe, oxys.
The same thing?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So this is so like disconcerting to me because it's like
No,
it's
I
like
know.
you hear these stories, but like once you get into it and you see the circumstance and you hear the circumstances around it, you're like, man, like how does this even happen in America?
I know. And it's sad too that it's pretty much a lot of families now anymore, I'm hearing, you know what I mean? A lot of people that I meet and have met in my life, I mean, they've had, similar problems. It sucks because it's growing rapidly. But, in my own family, there's family members that have drug problems, alcohol problems. And, it's a generational curse in a sense, I feel like. But, it's one that me and my sister want to break,
So when it comes, what year did your mother and father pass away?
Back in 2019, October 1st.
Oh, so this is like recently in like the last
Yes.
5 years.
Yes.
The same day?
Yes. Same day, same time.
So did they get laced?
Yes. Laced heroin. That was what I believe the state police has said. Actually, I did see too that there was like a white powder over by where my mom was, and that was actually fentanyl. You know what I mean? And they said if I went any closer or even touched it, I would have overdosed and died.
So is this coming? Where's this coming from?
Well, I have to say it was coming from, I believe it has to be coming from our border, from when, we have these open border policies. But not only that, I would have to say soft on crime policy, especially in Pennsylvania. I feel like we're not hard enough and tough enough on drug dealers and drug suppliers.
How does this? So like I said, like before, like you see the problem happening.
Right.
I can't believe that no one saw this at the southern border.
Oh, I know. It got worse over time when the Biden administration took over. They allowed all these people just to pour into this country, and they were bringing fentanyl, drugs. And not only that, these people are also, in most cases, murderers, gang members. And the thing
Some people will say that that's insensitive to say. Why is that not insensitive?
It's not insensitive because just look at what happened. I mean, look at Lincoln Riley. She died from a vicious gang member that killed her. And then on top of it,
Who should have never been here.
No, should have never been here. And look at the amount of fentanyl overdoses there are now than there were before when the border was closed. There are more now because of the fact that all these people are bringing it in and they're dealing it to Americans. And I also do blame China because China, in a sense, is bringing it over to the southern border and bringing it up through there.
Well, they're manufacturing it, aren't
Oh,
they?
yeah, pretty much. And China doesn't have a drug problem. And you know what? I mean, a lot of people say this is insensitive to say and kind of crazy to say, but I think Trump also said it too. But if you're caught, pretty much supplying or dealing drugs that ultimately kill somebody, I believe that you should get the death penalty for that in a sense, But again, it's kind of like a hard topic because, again, there's people too that deal drugs and they don't mean to kill people. And we have to look into that more. But I feel like we need to be a little bit more harsh on drug dealers and drug suppliers as well.
Well, they never go to the source.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I get
It's always like, well, you sold those drugs, so you're in trouble now. It's like,
That's
well,
the
where
thing,
did they
yeah.
get the drugs?
Exactly.
To sell them.
Exactly.
There's a
should go to
supply
supplier.
chain.
Yes. Yes. And we need to find the supply chains. I feel like we're not targeting them enough.
Man, just this one issue alone has so many like sub basement levels of madness.
Well, we have an acquaintance that comes through here that kind of told us about a neighbor that he had that was selling drugs, remember? And he was having trouble. And then basically he disappeared, but they got him.
Yeah.
But the bigger part was like, we're looking for the guy that's bringing it to him. So that's kind of where, like, so if that person sells something, though, like you're saying, is he the one that's liable for that? Or is it the greater cause of like, okay, they got him, they're moving on to the next person now?
Yeah.
Trying to break down that chain of command.
Yeah, I definitely feel like we have to find the suppliers. I do agree with that. We need to find the suppliers because if once we find them, we can stop the dealers pretty much from, going to the suppliers because we're closing down, basically their money source in a sense. So yeah, I would say we should go over after the suppliers.
But what happens when the supplier turns out to be the CIA?
Oh, that would be crazy. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
We might have heard something about poppy or opium fields in Afghanistan.
No, I heard that.
And all like that. I mean, that's the crazy. Like people don't realize. I get so much shit for just like telling the truth. You know what I mean?
And that's fine.
And I just find it so like, because the contrary to that is to like close your eyes and ignore it. And then more family members and more friends and like it just affects everybody. It's like I my tinfoil hat's on all the time, if that makes sense. Because I'm like anything's possible.
Yeah.
Like some of the craziest shit that people have told me I've been no way. And then like it's true.
It's true, yeah.
It ends up being true. So like Air America, Dan.
Yeah. There's actual but
they made movies about the CIA doing it.
Oh, I know.
But
like
if you say it now,
exactly.
everybody's like, "Oh, you're crazy!" Like they don't do that. It's like, no, they did that. They're probably still doing that because why wouldn't they? It's great, because it keeps everybody in check outside of America. But it's also still like, yeah, but they're still bringing in the heroin and the cocaine and the marijuana, and so their big triangle trade that had never stopped.
I have a buddy, and I don't know if this is true or not.
Yeah,
but he was a contractor, and he has told me, he's like, we used to go to parties, like raves, and he goes, we would sell drugs so that we could make the budget for our ops, for the military.
What?
Yes.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, what?
That's crazy.
I'm like, that's crazy. And then you look into stuff and you're like, oh, they've done that before. Like they that's been exposed.
That is crazy.
Oh yeah. So like I look at like, if America was your house, right, and somebody was leaving the doggy door open, and all these, and I'm not trying to equate what's going on to cockroaches. It's just the easiest way to do it. Like if the cockroaches were coming into your house, you'd be like, oh, okay, I either need to fix that, and if I don't, I really want cockroaches in my house.
Right.
So like we go back and forth on all these things, and like I'm pretty exhausted now of like my theories. Because all of them are leading to someone wants to leave the doggy door open for the cockroaches to come in.
Oh, exactly. I mean, again, the southern border, why hasn't it been closed down in those 4 years of Biden? I mean, Harris, she was put in charge of it. She was the border czar, but she never went down there.
No, she was like an hour and a half away from it.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're put in charge of the border. The president put you in charge of the border. You're the acting vice president of the United States. Why don't you go down there and fix that first before going to Europe or going to France or whatever? But no, she didn't. She put us last. She let the people come in. He let the people come in, and it just caused mayhem beyond belief.
Where did you have your switch? Because you said you were a little liberal.
I would say
back in the day.
Yeah.
So what was your switch?
Before the 2022 midterms, again, I was listening.
Oh, you were like a liberal in 2020?
Yeah, I would say yes.
No shit.
I wasn't a big fan of Trump back in 2020. I was like, man,
why?
It's just I listened to the media. I listened to what they said. You know what I mean? I basically.
What were the big things that you were like you bought in on?
Oh, pretty much like he doesn't want to people be wearing masks. He want people to disobey the rule, law, things like that. On top of it too, he's a dictator and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, at the time. But then I started doing my research and I'm like, he's not the dictator. He's not the authoritarian. He's not the one that forcefully, sent police officers to synagogues and arrested, Jewish people for, living in their synagogues or being there worshiping during COVID. You know what I mean? He wasn't the one that also did a lot of like the censorship. I mean, look they censored him. They sent law enforcement after him.
If you can censor the president's not in charge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, everything that they blame him for, they are guilty of.
It's weird, isn't it?
It is. And I've seen it. Like, especially too, like all these cases between, the New York case. I mean, that Carol case. I mean, first off, who would listen to that Carol lady? I mean, she was on Twitter posting something about Brad Pitt wanted like a sexual fantasy or something like that. Why would you listen to her?
Wasn't she at Anderson Cooper saying like, is it like rape is love or something like that? Didn't she? Yeah. And Anderson Cooper's like, we're going to cut to commercial because they like, there's no other explanation than like, something is afoot.
Right.
There are people and entities that are operating in a sphere that we are unaware of that are trying to literally like tear down whatever the hell we think we have in this country.
Oh, exactly. They want to take everything away, including our history. I mean, as soon as, too, like when I was watching Trump, I was watching some Trump clips for a while. Like I was looking at his White House, like his archived White House, YouTube and all that. And I started seeing like all the policies that he was putting into place and all those videos, especially the one about how, they want to stop fireworks at Mount Rushmore. They want to tear down this statue, that statue, including that mountain named after President McKinley. Yeah. They took away. And I'm like, I don't want to be a Democrat if they're going to take away all my, American, names and, people that have built this country. You know what I mean? I don't like that. But not only that, it's just like, I feel like too, he opened my eyes when he went to, I believe it was the World Economic Forum, and he went up in front of everybody.
You would eat some bugs and you would be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he actually made a speech saying something along the lines of, man, I need to pull it up actually on my phone.
No one's gonna fact check you.
Okay.
But you could, but I remember.
But I don't want to mess this up.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I actually was going to write this down, but then, I was running late because I was doing my hair. You know what I mean? So I wanted to.
Dan, you want to show me your hair?
Look at this.
Hey, it's all right, man. Yeah. I'm getting there too.
It looks like an old broom.
Hey, at least you still got hair on your head.
Well, half of it's there.
I'm waiting for him to do the whole like the part over. I'm waiting for him to
maybe do the Trump comb over.
It's long ways. I can get there.
Do you know what's amazing about his hair? Like when Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon
messed it up.
I was like, man, that's not what I thought it was. Like he's got his hair there.
Oh yeah, he does. He does.
I was expecting like in Tommy Boy when David Spade's hair blows up and almost half away.
You find it.
Tommy Boy was a movie from the 90s, in case you didn't know.
He wasn't born. He wasn't even. You got to watch Tommy Boy, man. Chris Farley, another tragic.
Or Black Sheep.
Black Sheep wasn't as good as Tommy Boy. And I'll fight you. I'll fight
absolutely
you
not. But
wait a minute, my phone's slow.
What are you looking for?
The World Economic Forum.
Oh, about eating bugs.
Yeah. So these people, like, globalism is authoritarianism.
Exactly.
And I don't know why. Like, when I grew up, I was classically liberal, right? And in like 1993, I was 13 years old and I watched the movie JFK. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I never saw it, but I was a big fan of JFK as well. I really thought that he was very common sense.
You gotta watch.
I gotta watch it.
JFK is about like the assassination of Kennedy, and Oliver Stone did it. It stars Kevin Costner and what's his name?
Oliver Platt.
No. Oliver Platt wasn't that. Yeah. Oh my God, my cousin Vinny.
Joe Pesci.
David Ferry. That's who did. But all the shit in that is real.
I know.
Like you watch and it's all connected to like these groups like the mafia or the CIA or
right.
But so like that kind of opened my eyes. Like when I was growing up, we watched this show called Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
And they would talk all the time about like Sirhan did not kill RFK, like, and who shot Kennedy, and
that whole thing is messed up. It seems like because like I never got really a definite answer on who exactly was involved. I mean, we know of course the gunman. What was
JFK?
His name? Yeah,
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald.
He worked for the CIA.
Yeah, pretty much. You know what I mean? But there was the CIA was definitely involved,
and he was a pro-Castro communist.
Exactly.
And you're just like,
and the CIA hired him. You know?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a deep dark rabbit hole. But
I do know the deep state definitely killed JFK. I just don't know the whole story on who exactly was involved.
I wish we could pull up our stuff because do you know who Woody Harrelson is, the actor?
Oh yeah.
Okay, his dad was a hitman. This is all real.
No way.
His dad was a hitman, and they arrested 3 bums, and they brought them to the Dallas police station. And then when they perp walked them, the press was there taking photos, and one of them was Woody Harrelson's dad, and Woody Harrelson's dad's in jail for murdering a judge.
That is unbelievable.
And Woody Harrelson thinks like something was up.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
All right, what
I found the
did
quote,
Trump
actually.
say? Okay,
so this is the quote that pretty much opened my eyes. I feel like in general. This is probably like around like 2021 when I was starting to do research, starting to be open-minded.
how dare you do your own research?
I know, right?
How dare you?
I know. He said, if you want freedom, take pride in your country. If you want democracy, hold on to your sovereignty. And if you want peace, love your nation. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, that's my president. And on top of it, too, he said something along the lines of the future does not belong to the globalists. The future belongs to patriots. That was when I was like, yeah.
They turned all that into dirty words. They turned
I know.
patriotism. They turned the American flag is now like a hate symbol.
Which is crazy.
It's
insane.
crazy. Do you have the clip of Woody?
Let's see. This is it.
You want to hear this?
Yeah.
We can't show
definitely.
it, but we can hear it.
Definitely.
It's fairly well known, if anybody's read anything about you or talked with you, that when you were 7 years old, your father went off to prison, convicted of murder. Tell me how you feel today, what the story is today.
Well, he is in prison right now for the killing of a federal judge. I think that it was not a fair trial, especially because the guy who supposedly hired my father to commit the murder was later acquitted on a retrial.
Woody, do you think your father is innocent of that second murder? That's what I've heard.
I'm not saying my father's a saint, but I think he's innocent of that. Yeah.
Are you trying to have the case opened up, trying to have it investigated, trying to set him free?
Well, let's put it this way. I haven't given up hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You said once that you thought that your father was a CIA operative. Yes?
Yeah, he was.
How do you know? What proof?
See, I shouldn't get into this right now.
Okay.
This is where we're going to get into trouble.
But this is something that you feel and that you're trying to work on?
Oh, I know it's true, but,
Does it make a difference?
That he was trained by the CIA?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it makes a difference. Yeah.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. That is unbelievable.
So that's Barbara Walters. For comparison,
Oh,
that's
now he's gonna. You don't know her either.
yeah, that's like the equivalent of him basically going on like Tucker at this point and like saying this stuff to the nation.
Wow.
At the time, yeah.
Wow. That is unbelievable.
She started The View.
Really?
Yeah, Barbara Walters was the one who started The View.
Her and Star Jones, and it was the other two. It was
Yeah, now it just
Joy
now it's
was
just
on there.
now it's just turned into like these angry women just yelling.
Exactly. And especially too that they're angry women that love globalists and love left-wing, super left-wing policy.
You know what? But it sounds like a good idea. It sounds like, love your neighbor and we're all in this arc together, this community.
Right.
But the problem is that like we're like the beauty of Earth is the diversity, right? So like you have people who are absolute like Elon, right? Who's like that dude never has to work again a day in his life.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have people who are like in tribes in South America that have never seen any technology whatsoever. And then you have people who are like rich in culture, like the Italians or the Greeks or like, the Northern Africans or the Chinese. Like the Chinese have a history of like 7,000 years.
Exactly.
The United States only has like 250 years and the Chinese have like, and we think that all these people are going to like acquiesce to like a bunch of people on TV telling them the way they should acquiesce. And at the time it sounds good, but then in practice you're like, if you do these things, then you rob all these people of their identity. You rob all these people of their rich traditions and culture and the things that make them who they are. Because it's not just like, I don't believe that people are born bad or good.
Right.
I believe that like the environment that they grow up in, and that's just not like the household you're in. It's the country you're in. Everything manipulates that to make you whoever you are.
Right.
I think that's the beauty of it and working together. But to try to force people to conform
To their ideology, it's not right.
it doesn't work.
No.
Because you're always going to get blowback.
Exactly.
You're always going to get people who are going to be like, no. Like the thing about America is that's different from every other country is I can say whatever I want.
Exactly. Not be arrested.
There should be no threat. There should be no other country has that.
Right.
No other country. As much as they want to say that they do, there is no freedom of speech in Germany.
Exactly.
There is no freedom of speech in Britain. And, now did you see the South Africans?
No.
Oh my God. They're trying to genocide white people.
Oh, yeah.
That is crazy.
It's insane.
That is crazy.
And they've been doing it for years. And
Yeah.
no one talks. Like you hear these stories about like these white farmers who are just getting like gangs are showing up and just murdering them
Wow.
just for being white and a farmer.
That is crazy.
Like throughout history, and I'm 44, right?
Oh, you don't look that
maybe.
old.
Yeah, I'm 44.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize like the nature of humanity and how things work and the systems and how you can't change it. The people who want to oppress people have always existed.
Right.
They're not like that part of humanity is not going to change.
I mean, even the devil,
It's biblical.
Yeah, it is pretty much because, I'm a big believer in God. I mean, especially after what happened to my parents.
Sure.
And I see every single day that even if I preach the name of God, people just look at me like I'm a crazy person or, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like get out of here. You're a right winger or something like that. But no, it's just like I believe in God and God actually has a lot of great teachings. And if you believe and open your heart to him, then life can get so much better. We're to the point where you can have your own freedom of mind and, just free will in general. But it's just like a lot of people are so wrapped up in today's society and how this, whole, I feel like matrical system works that they're just blindsided by what's, real and not real.
Well, we don't I think that there's something. So, I mean, Dan knows. Dan was here for the journey. I think I used to be an atheist, right? And then something happened to me, and I don't want to scare the hell out of you, so I'm not going to tell you. You might be like, "Oh, that makes sense," or you might be, but there's no reason to delve into it. But so I had this moment where I'm like, "Oh my God, we are all connected. Like there is something beautiful there that we can't understand that is way beyond human understanding." And when you take that away. When you take that belief in something greater than yourself, when you take the belief in the way where it's like, there's this common thread that keeps us all together, that should make us not hate our neighbor.
Right.
It should make us, empathetic to our neighbor without, ruining my life. I want to be a good person. And when you take away this unknowing, this metaphysical thing, I think it creates hopeless people.
Well, that Nazi Germany did that.
Sure.
They went into churches and they destroyed, statues of Jesus Christ and, told people that they can't go to church, things like that, because it brought people together. It brought people to a sense where, they don't want to fight. They don't want to kill. They just want to be all together. And they don't want, what's going on right now, with the whole war and everything like that. They didn't want to have an authoritarian over their lives. I mean, God pretty much taught them that they have free will and, to love your neighbor. But when they took that away, they basically controlled people, especially in China. I feel like they're doing that now.
That's what
they're
always
already
do.
doing it.
Lenin did that too in Russia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did you know that they killed that after World War II in Eastern Europe and Russia, they killed over 100 million Christians.
Oh my God.
Did you know that?
No.
I did not know that.
No. Wow.
I didn't know that until the last year.
Wow.
So I'm like, if you who's the comedian? There's this one comedian. He did the Batman thing.
Oh, Pete
Holmes.
Pete Holmes, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, if you think that you're he's like, zoom out.
Yeah.
Like if you zoom out and you get perspective on things where it's like, I look, Nazi Germany was terrible.
Exactly.
Why don't we talk about the 100 million Christians too?
Exactly.
Why is that not talked about?
Right.
And I think that's not talked about, because when you take some sort of faith from the people and you bastardize it and you make it something that you can't practice even in private, you'll have people turning you in.
Oh yeah,
for having like a rosary.
exactly.
You know, that's wrong.
And it's scary too, because I was seeing for a while, and it's still happening in a sense where they want to take away our faith here in America.
Robert Kennedy was one of those. Do you like him?
Oh yeah, I love RFK Jr.
Like when he came out and he was like at the very beginning, because his whole fight at the very beginning of the COVID stuff. Like I've always followed Robert Kennedy. I thought like his environmentalism was really good.
Oh yeah.
You know, he's not right wing. He just, you know, what does he say? I want to get the mercury out of the fish. It doesn't make me anti-fish. He was traveling around the world, and he was like, they don't have a right to take away your faith. They don't have a right to take away your religion. Like they had no right to shut down churches. Like nowhere, like anything after the Constitution is kind of like, that can all be negotiated. Yeah. You know, in a way, I'm incredibly thankful that COVID happened.
Oh, because it opened up everybody's eyes. I mean, we were basically sheep at that point. I mean, basically, I saw it as I was a sheep, and I was told you got to stay inside and you have to wear a mask and you have to obey. When I went to high school, all these teachers, as soon as you like, you know, have your mask down just a little bit under your nose, you're like, put the mask back on. And it's just like, wow, like this is insane. You know what I mean? This is beginning to be a little too much. And on top of it too, that's when I think all like, you know, the transgender insanity became a thing, because people were bored out of their minds in their house and they wanted to experiment. And that's why I think like all this new, you know, genders and all this stuff just came out, you know what I mean? And started to, you know, actually take off. And it's just, I feel like it was a time where it actually made America sick. Like that was like
unhealthy.
Unhealthy. Yeah.
I fought. I mean, I didn't fight. I wasn't in the trenches, but I supported like gay marriage.
Oh, me too.
You know, I think that, what was that, 2008, 2009? I think they did that.
Oh, when California voted against it at first? Was it?
No. But I think it was a Supreme Court decision that was like, basically, it wasn't like we're going to legalize gay marriage, but it was like there's no problem with it. Right. So then everyone was like, all right, gay marriage. And I thought, rather foolishly at the time, I'm like, okay, like civil rights, gay rights, everybody's good now. There's no more oppressed people.
Right.
Right. Now we're all on an equal playing field. No one can complain, you know, and now it's all about like content of your character, as Martin Luther King would say.
Yeah.
And then they started adding new genders.
I know.
And I'm like, we're now at any moment, anybody can be oppressed in their eyes.
Exactly.
At any moment, anyone is a victim. And I thought that was over. Like I thought in like 2008, I was like, all right, cool. Like milestone passed. Now everybody let's work on like being awesome people and doing great things. And, And it just like, and then you look back at the history of like sexual ideology and where it comes from. And, and you're like, how did this even, and I hate to say it, man. It's the schools and it's the colleges.
It is. And I still kind of see it today in a sense where like, you know what I mean? They're asking people, you know, what do you want to be called? Things like that. And like, not only that though, like, you know, there were times where I saw people misgender somebody and they would just go haywire. They would be like, I'm not a man. You know what I mean? And it's just like, why are you getting this, you know, tight about it? You know what I mean? And not only that though, there's only two genders, male and female. That's it. I'm sorry, but that's your biological.
What is it? There's only two sexes. Gender is a construct.
Yeah.
Oh,
gender's made up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, gender's made up. You either like it's what's it is it the gonads? Is that what they call it?
I don't know. I'm not a biologist.
Like there's male and female ones. Like that's it. That's the only way you can figure that out. My mom was a health teacher. And she and this was amazing. So she had a skeleton in the class for health. And at the beginning of the year, she would ask the class, is the skeleton male or female? And she wouldn't tell the class till the end of the year. They would guess. They would have all these reasons. The skeleton was a female because of the hips. The hips are like 20 degrees off in a certain way. And that's how you can tell Like if you dig up bones, you're like, that's a female. That's how you tell. And it's like, I feel terrible for anybody who has like gender dysphoria. I feel terrible. Like that is not, it's like, that's a terrible thing. But like for children, like that's where I drew the line. And I was like, and I remember it was like 2019 before COVID. And I said to somebody, I'm like, yo, I think this trans stuff I think it's a mental illness. Like I think and we shouldn't be promoting it. Like we shouldn't be encouraging it. Like what do I always use? The Karen Carpenter scenario. There's this band in the 70s called the Carpenters.
Now he's gonna do it.
Right. So like, why do birds suddenly appear? So she had anorexia.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't eat, or she would vomit. Did she have bulimia? No, Elton John had bulimia.
Didn't she eat carrots only and turned orange?
Yeah, she got incredibly ill because of an insecurity about her health, or about her weight and her looks and all that shit, right? Never in a million years would I expect anybody to
change her gender.
Condone her behavior of not eating.
Right.
You know, like, keep going, Karen. Like, you got a few more pounds to go. Like, go as low as you can.
Yeah.
And that's how I looked at all the trans stuff. And I was like,
oh, I know, because they want to go as far and even farther as to saying, hey, now let's take hormones. Let's actually transition yourself into,
do you know what Lupron is?
No, never heard of it.
Lupron. Okay, so there's another movie called The Imitation Game. Do you ever see that movie? The guy who cracked the World War II code of the Enigma machines.
Benedict Cumberbatch, isn't that?
Yeah, he's in that. I forget the name of the guy, right? So they credit him with helping the British win World War II because all the submarines had this thing called an Enigma machine on it, which was an unbreakable code. And he basically made the first computer to crack the code.
Wow.
He cracked the code. They find out he's gay. They hate him. And they give him a drug to chemically castrate him.
Wow. That's
what they're giving children. They're giving the stuff that they gave to him. And no one's like going like, should we do this? Like, should we affirm this?
Weren't they giving that to pedophiles in prison too?
Yeah, same thing they give to pedophiles in prison. Lupron.
Wow.
Yeah. And when you ask them about it, they're like, well, would you rather have, a dead daughter or a live son?
Yeah.
Which is a devil's bargain that no one should have to pay.
No, and not only that, though, why is it, too, that these kids now, like in California, for example, I don't know if it's still law or not, but they can go right up to a teacher and say, hey, my parents don't want to give me this, surgery.
Sure.
And they're taken away from the parents. And the
I don't know if that's happening, but I do know that, like,
but these
there were stories out of Canada that like people were being arrested for like detonating their children and stuff. Again,
but it's crazy though. This is what they're talking about, and it's insane because no kid should be taken away by the government from their parents. You know what I mean? And the parents, I'm sorry to say this, but kids need to respect their parents and what they say at the time. You know what I mean? Because like you don't have an actual say until you're 18.
Actually, the schools should respect the parents.
Oh yeah, schools should too.
My mom was a teacher for like 22 years in the Scranton School District, right? And
what was her name? Because I went to Scranton in elementary.
She was in West. She went to West.
Okay.
She was in West Intermediate.
Okay.
So she did like 4 through 8. I still meet kids that she had that they loved her. And my mom is one of the most forthright, no bullshit people, but she's got a big heart.
Yeah.
She'll give you grace. But if you cross her, right? So we saw all this stuff happening. Like she would tell me about this stuff. She's like, I'll give you for instance. So she would do something called the summer program, right? Now the summer program is like the low income kids are the ones with like, at the time I don't even know what to call people who like would go to St. Joe's now. Do you know what I mean?
The troubled youth?
No. But like, they had like, they were physically ailed.
Yeah.
Either mentally or, like autistics, Asperger's, nonverbal, like those kids. And she said, I was with her in Florida like 3 weeks ago and we were talking about like autism. And she goes, when I started the summer program, we had 50 kids. 1 out of those 50 was autistic. She goes, by the time I left, we had 100 kids and 50 of them were autistic. How does that happen?
See, that's the thing too, that I'm really glad that RFK Jr. is hopefully going to be our next health secretary.
I think he's going to do it.
I think-
Otherwise, they're
yeah.
going to have a revolution.
Exactly. No, exactly. But I don't understand how come back in the day, autism wasn't a big thing. Even cancer wasn't a huge thing.
No.
Now it's happening all the time. And these kids, even ADHD is a big thing too. I know
Huge,
many people with
huge.
ADHD.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I have ADHD. It sucks.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, I think it's from our foods, what we're feeding our kids. The medications too, I feel like is a big, factor too in some cases. Like, albuterol, for example, it's something that cures things with like asthma, things like that.
Yeah, it's the puffer.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
puffer basically. That causes ADHD, and really bad in some kids. Why aren't we regulating this stuff? Why aren't we even like looking into it? It seems like the FDA does not want to investigate these stuff. Like, it's terrible.
So in the early 90s, RFK talks about this.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, there was a meeting, and I believe the meeting was in North Carolina or South. I think it was North Carolina, and they had all the pharmaceutical companies and the reps from like the FDA and the CDC and everything, and they had a study about autism. They went back and looked. Where did autism start? And Kennedy says it was like a straight line, like 1989. And what happened in 1989 is there's something called the Dole-By Act. You ever hear this?
Never heard of it.
So the Dole-By Act was this thing that Reagan signed to hold the insurance companies harmless, or the pharmaceutical companies harmless for their vaccines, because the pharmaceutical companies wanted to stop making vaccines in like 1986.
Wow.
So what happened is that if you're injured from a vaccine from 1989 forward,
Yeah.
right? The only recourse that you have for remedy, like if your kid gets injured, you have to sue the federal government. You can't sue the pharmaceutical companies. You have to sue the federal government. It's called the Vaccine Injury Fund,
Huh.
right?
Yeah.
Only 1 out of 100 cases actually ever gets it into court. And the Vaccine Injury Fund has $3 or $4 billion in it. So if vaccines aren't hurting kids, why is there $3 or $4 billion in the
Yeah.
fund to do that? So what RFK says about vaccines is he goes, there's no vaccine that is safe and effective. What does that mean? So if you have a 1 in 100,000 chance of getting injured from a vaccine, or let's say 1 in a million,
Yeah.
they're not safe and effective, because you should know as a parent, your kid has a chance that this will harm them, which means it's not safe or effective. Those two words can't be used. So in 1990, they all got together, and what happened was they realized that, like, holy shit, there's a signal here. We might not know exactly what it is. There's a lot of people who have since postulated on what it is. A lot of it is thimerosal or aluminum or mercury or some of the things that they put in the vaccines. Still to this day that they're in there. So and the way I look at it is I'm like, if a lot of these people knew in the early 90s that this is a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of these people think like you and I think, where it's like the Americans today are like, I want the pizza now. I don't want to make it.
Yeah.
We all think about like today. These people think generationally. These people think 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Part of me has to think that at some point, some of them are like, in 20, 25 years, we're going to have all these autistic people.
Right.
And they're easily manipulatable.
Oh,
and
yes.
And they're easily, like, my family members say cradle to the grave, right? So if you get injured or whatever, you now have to become a customer for life. I mean, it's a great business model, but it causes irrevocable harm amongst a nation, a family, a people.
Exactly. And not only that, I mean, again, it sucks that, there's like, for example, the COVID vaccine, there was cases of people having heart attacks from it. I mean,
Yeah,
look at how
myocarditis.
fast it was developed. You know what I mean?
Cut to me. There's now studies that say that that's true. The shit that you said we lied about 3 years ago, it's now true. Also, they're safe and effective. Everyone should get one. Go back to you.
No, but again, it's just like, it's insane. And not only that, though, it's just like they were actually putting down COVID vaccine deaths as just COVID deaths. That's what I was hearing, which again is kind of fishy.
So here's the interesting thing about that. If you were vaccinated, right, within 2 weeks, if you died,
Yeah.
it's COVID death.
That doesn't make
So like
sense.
if you get vaccinated on February 1st and you die between February 1st and February 14th, it's a COVID death.
Wow.
all the time. Every single one of them.
That is
They would
insane.
say that too. Like you're not fully vaccinated until like 2 weeks after that.
Oh yeah, because you have to get like 2 vaccines in the booster, and then there was another booster too.
They're up to 7. They're up to 7
boosters now?
Yeah. Vaccine's supposed to be once.
Well, I have to admit, I only got one vaccine.
What'd you get?
That was the Moderna. And that was around the time when they first came out. But after that, I had like something going wrong with my arm. Like my arm was like so sore and like
Was it your
red.
left arm?
It was, yeah, my left arm. So then after that, I was like, you know what? I don't want to get another one. So I never got the other ones.
So there's actual studies on this too. So 70% of the adverse effects came from 4% of the batches. So when you get your COVID vaccine, it says batch and lot number on it.
Yeah.
There's a website right now called howbadismybatch.com, and you could put your lot and your batch number in, and it'll tell you whether or not other people who got those same things
Really?
had any problems. Yeah.
Wow. I might have to look into that just in case.
Yeah, they created the whole COVID thing created all these, like all the doctors, like you got to think about it, man. Like 70% of doctors are employees.
Right.
So they work for a company,
Right.
and very few are independent. So the independent ones are allowed to be like, I don't have to listen to what they tell me. I don't have to listen to like the protocol of this healthcare system that insists that we have to ventilate everyone who has COVID and blow their lungs out and kill them.
Which is crazy.
I know, dude, you're so young.
I know.
Like,
Seriously. And the thing
it's
is,
got to
too,
be terrifying.
my dad, getting to know him throughout the years, I mean, he was always open-minded too. And if he saw what was going on today, he would be like, yeah, this is insane. You know what I mean? Because my dad was pretty much too like someone that I thought for a while was crazy. I don't know, what political stance he was. He was very independent, but he did all this
I think that's a
research,
wise
you know what
thing
I mean?
to be as independent.
Yeah. And it's just like the amount of things he was telling me, I'm like, Dad, are you okay? But no, actually, a lot of stuff that he was telling me made a lot of sense. And now I'm seeing it today.
What's the big one?
The big one was pretty much that there is a deep state.
It's not hard to think
It's
that,
not
like,
hard. Yeah. Like, he was telling me like, the government's corrupt. And at the time I was like, no, I believe everything the leaders say, but now I see it. It's pretty common sense. We do have a deep state. It's very corrupt,
I didn't understand it at the beginning.
Yeah.
In like early 20 it was early 2020.
Yeah.
No. It was 2020.
Yeah.
Right. So 2019 COVID hit.
As we were sitting around COVID, you were learning about all this stuff.
Yeah. So it was like March of 2020.
Yeah.
And people would tell me about like the deeps. Like my biggest flip was I watched Trump's Charlottesville press conference.
Yeah.
Good people
they
on both
totally
sides.
twisted that. The
so,
media.
So that was in like early 2020 where I was like, 30 seconds before he said, I disavow white supremacy in all shapes and forms.
Right.
And like 60 seconds after he said it, he's like, I disavow white supremacy in all shapes and forms. And I'm like, whoa. Now like I now have to go back and look at everything from like 2017, 2018,
Right.
2019. Like, what did they lie about?
Exactly.
And there was tons of stuff that they lied about.
I mean, even when he was a businessman, he condemned white supremacy. He actually condemned David Duke a lot, especially when he was a businessman. You know what I mean?
Do you watch the Hodge twins? Do
Uh,
you know who the Hodge twins are?
I heard of them. Yeah.
They just had David Duke on their podcast.
Really? Oh
It
my
was-
God.
Did you see any of it?
I haven't watched them in a while.
That is
though,
crazy.
really.
It was hysterical.
Oh my God.
It's one of the funniest. But you know what? Like, I'm not saying David Duke's a good guy or a
Right.
bad guy. But what
Right.
I'm saying is like two black twins sat down with him and had a really interesting conversation
Exactly.
about his points of view.
Yeah.
And I think Trump was a threat to, like, if Hillary Clinton won, holy shit,
Oh
where
my
would
God.
we be?
Huh. Really bad situation.
We'd be in a terrible place.
I think World War III.
Or like where all of our brains are plugged into like these weird Xboxes and we can't.
Well,
and
what
we-
did she say? We have to reprogram people who support Donald Trump. So she probably would have put us into like pretty much concentration camps.
That's not America.
No,
You're supposed to be
it's
able
not.
to think for yourself. You're supposed to be able to go, you're lying or you're not lying.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, these people just want to program us, and it's not right.
How much shit are you getting now? Are you doing okay?
Oh, with pretty much the whole politics thing.
Yeah.
I have to say one thing. I actually brought a picture today.
Let's show it.
I met JD Vance.
I was, if our things was working, we would have showed that. Now, where'd you meet
Bring
him?
it out. So me and my sister went down to Philly. It was an addiction event, actually, and basically he just wanted to meet with us. The team was like,
He
you know,
wanted
you
to
have
meet with
interesting.
you?
Yes, he wanted to meet with us.
No shit.
Yeah, he heard our story and he's like, bring them down. So we met backstage and it was a nice, like, you know, genuine conversation we had. I mean, pretty much, you know, he said that he's cheering me and my sister on. And, you know, he talked about how, like, again, like this country has like a serious problem with the drug epidemic. And from there on, too, I felt like I wasn't being ignored because, you know, the vice presidential candidate, you know, running with Donald Trump. I mean, he basically told me and my sister that we're going to get this figured out, you know what I mean? And we're going to stop this drug crisis. And I look at his story, Hillbilly LG, and it's a big inspiration to me. Because someone who has gone through a lot, especially too with a family with, you know, drug problems, to now going to college and then becoming a lawyer and now the vice president of the United States. I mean, that's very inspirational to me. I mean, I go to Lackawanna College right now. I'm going to Penn State University in the fall. And I mean, I just want to live up to something like that. You know what I mean? Like success, pretty much. I want to be a lawyer. That's what I want.
Oh, why?
Yeah. Basically,
Why?
well, I'm very argumentative, and not only that,
You haven't argued with me once yet.
I know.
We're having a great time.
Yeah.
Probably because we agree.
We agree. If we didn't agree, I would have been arguing. But no, I just want to be a lawyer because I just want to, you know, fight for people and, you know, fight for justice. But not only that, it's just like, again, it's just a very argumentative side that I have that I enjoy.
What kind of law do you want to practice?
So I'm looking into it. I mean, I either want to do criminal law because right now I am doing criminal justice at Lackawanna, or I'm even thinking about doing like maybe like, you know, more towards like corporate law and then also getting like a business, you know, minor. I mean, I've always been interested in like the entrepreneurial stuff as well, because back in my high school, I took a lot of entrepreneurial classes and marketing classes. So we'll see what happens from there. But I'm going to be honest with you too. Eventually, maybe I might want to do some type of, you know, political position. Maybe. I don't know what God
Why? Why?
I know. I don't know what God has in store for me, but if I ever needed to
Did that
run
go
for
down?
politics,
Yeah,
I would.
Can you turn it back on?
I did.
Is it working?
Hold on.
Story of our life. Nothing works when we want it to.
No, you're good.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Did it click? Sorry, Jack.
Oh, you're good.
Everything falls apart.
No,
Everything.
It's all
Make
right.
sure you eat healthy and work out because
I will.
everything falls apart. Is that toast?
Do you smell toast?
Is it back up? There it is.
There we go.
Now we're back up.
Perfect.
Let me clap real quick. So you want to get into criminal law?
Yeah, either criminal law or again corporate law. I'll see where it takes me from there, but I want to get into some type of lawyer position. I would love that.
How's your what's your sister's plans?
My sister, she wants to be a nurse, but also on top of it too, she's a musician right now. I mean, she hasn't gotten big yet, but she's going out doing some gigs here and there.
No kidding.
Yeah, and she's hoping I maybe becoming, you know, a musician one day, you know, but nursing is her number one money maker that she wants to get into. So she's thinking about going to Luzerne Community College after she graduates. I mean, right now she's in her, I think, freshman year. Yeah, freshman year.
Of high school.
Yeah. So she still has a while to think.
I all I wanted to be in high school was an alcoholic.
I just wanted to go on tour with Fish, so
Yeah. Were you able to do that?
no, but you know, probably better for me that way.
Nobody's perfect. So how can people reach out to you
So like as far as
without like giving away your phone number?
Oh,
Like, do you
okay,
have, like
so-
social
Dox
media and
yourself.
stuff?
I have,
Yeah,
well,
so
actually,
people-
my social media just got hacked recently, but I was able to get a new account. So right now I'm on Instagram. I'm back on Instagram. I'm going to be getting back on Twitter. It's just, you know, Jack Klikus. You know, if you just look that up, it's me and JD Vance. So you guys can follow me if you want. You know what I mean?
How was he in the room with him?
Oh my God. He's a down to earth person, very down to earth. And
Did that surprise you?
I mean, no, I mean, when I was reading his story even beforehand, I was trying to research the guy because I never really knew who JD Vance was. I was following his story a little bit during like the 2022 midterms when he was running, you know, for Senate. But I didn't really get to know him until I actually read his book, and I knew from there he's a very down to earth guy. But when I met him, I was like, wow. I was actually kind of nervous. My sister, you know, she was making fun of me in line. She's like, you smell this and that. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to be meeting maybe the next vice president, you know, current senator. Could you please just cut me a break? But we go in there, you know, he shakes our hands and, you know, he said, you know, he's cheering us on. So that was very kind of him to do. And again, he also, and I have a video, but it's way back in my camera. camera. But he also mentioned our names to the press when he was, because the press was pretty much there. You know what I mean? It was like a little town hall thing. And, you know, he said something along the lines of, you know, Jack and I on Klikus, you know, we're orphaned because of this drug crisis that we have. You know what I mean? And it was very nice that he was sharing our story a little bit.
Would you ever consider working with HHS and trying to go after the drug companies as a lawyer?
Ooh, I mean, that does sound pretty interesting. I'll have to see. You know, I'll definitely do some research on that. That would be pretty cool to do.
Not that I can make any of that happen. I was just wondering.
just
I was
No, I'll
curious.
definitely check it out. You know, I'll see. Well, honestly, I'm just gonna see where God takes me. You know what I mean? I don't know what route He has me going in, but I do kind of see that He wants me to do something that has purpose, especially with, you know, the drug epidemic. So we'll see.
Jack, you're a good dude.
Thank you. I try to be.
Well, I think that's the pursuit. All of life is like, you're never going to be a perfect person, but the pursuit of just being a good person is always.
Well, I have to say, every morning I'm just determined to do better and just determined to pretty much fight. You know what I mean?
I'm going to give you some advice.
Yeah.
Listen to the signal, not the noise.
Mm.
Don't,
I will do.
Don't
I'll do that.
don't ever let other people complicate your mission, whatever you think it is. Stay on point.
I like that.
I
No,
think-
you know, I'm going to start using that.
You could. If you want to steal another one, truth is love, because if you love people, you'll tell them the truth.
Ooh.
Do you know who Michael
Man.
Yan is?
No, never heard
Michael.
of him.
So we did a podcast with this guy, Michael Yan. He's like this badass dude who was literally down at the Darien Gap for like the last 4 years reporting on it.
Yeah.
And he kind of zoomed in when I was on vacation. We did a nice podcast with him. It's like, believe it or not, it's like getting up there in views because Jan's getting really well known. But I said, this guy's seen combat. He's seen the worst the world has to offer. And I'm like, well, I think, if you love people, you tell them the truth. And if you tell them the truth, it means you love them. And he's like, I'm writing that down. And I'm like, how did you never hear something like that? And you think that this idiot like me could do it? But
Yeah.
he's a really cool guy. You should look up Jan.
No, definitely.
He's a hardcore, like, freedom patriot guy.
Well, I would have to say too, I mean, along the lines of like, what gives you a purpose is what, pretty much gives you that motivation and drive every single day. Again, it's just like my parents, like, just looking at
Can we show pictures
and
of
stuff
them?
like that. Yeah. So this is my mom. This was her wedding photo.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Here, how can we sneak that in?
Here, let me try mine, maybe.
Here, do it on yours, maybe.
And then this is my grandfather who passed away from the drugs.
Now, is that him and your mom?
With my grandma.
That's your grandma. Your grandmother looks just like your mom.
I know. They look alike, don't
Dude,
they?
that's crazy.
I know. She still looks pretty good too to this day. She's still up
That's
and moving.
crazy.
Yeah.
Try your camera again.
Oh, you don't like yours?
Nah,
Here, we'll show.
but I do want to see that.
I try to get the glare out of there. I'll take pictures.
Yeah,
maybe we'll
just
put
do
them
that.
in. Yeah.
'cause it's-
And then this is my dad holding me. And that's my half brother actually in the photo.
So he's older, right?
Yes.
Oh, this is in the hospital.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, man. A father looking at his son for like one of the first times is pretty amazing.
It was, yeah. Every
That's
time I look
pretty
at that
amazing.
photo, it's awesome.
Did you scan it so that you can always have it digitally?
Oh, yeah.
Man, that's beautiful.
I'm happy you shared this stuff with us, man.
No, of course. Yeah.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Whatever you got going on, let me know. You can always
Definitely.
You can always come hang out. You can always come shoot the shit. Whatever you want to do.
That would be awesome. I would love that.
I think you're on the path to something beautiful.
Thank you.
And Dan, any advice for Jack?
If you want to stick around for the after show, we can teach you more about the 90s and what it was like.
Oh, for sure.
You don't know Sir Mix-a-Lot? Why don't you know? Do you know 311? Why don't you know them? So what's your handle on Instagram? And you got to get back on X.
Oh, yeah. I got to get back on X. So the handle again is just jack.klikus official. Because, the last time I put Jack Klikus and I got hacked. So I want to make sure everyone knows that it's officially me. But yeah, it's just me with JD Vance. That's my profile pic.
Did you cut your sister out of the photo?
Yeah, she didn't want to be in it. Well, actually, she told me, take that down. And I'm like, okay, I'll just cut you out of it. She's like, okay, good. Because I didn't look good that day or something like that. I said,
Oh, women.
I know.
Women. Jack, you're an awesome dude, and
Thank
I'm
you.
happy that we got connected.
No,
and
thank you.
I'm really proud of who you are now and what you've been through because it's
And-
really awesome.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. And again, I just want to say, I'm just gonna keep on, seeing what God has in store for me. And I just thank you again for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Oh,
so
you're
much.
welcome. We don't do. We just. And I didn't drop an F-bomb.
No, you didn't. Good job.
Yeah, we did the whole thing.
Hey,
without-
that's good.
I think I said a shit, maybe.
Well, now you just did.
Oh, all right. Well, Jack, thanks a lot, buddy.
Yep. Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank
Dan,
you.
you want to say it?
What a week.